Halfland, an ahistorical prehistory. The Battle of the Clovermound. In the 129th year of the Common Reckoning, Anticlea led a rampaging band of Amazons into the halfling lands between the Gap-Tooth Mountains and the Silver Stream. The halflings were entirely unprepared for this attack. Before Anticlea and her followers descended from the hills, like a pack of ravenous wolves, the halflings had no idea that Amazons even existed, let alone that they might be dangerous. Not only were the halflings taken by surprise, but at this time their population was being ravaged by the dwarvish plague. Thus it was that for several weeks Anticlea was able to loot and kill her way across the halfling lands, virtually unopposed. As the Amazons approached Elm Grove, the town was in turmoil. Those of the population who were not prostrated by violent illness milled confusedly to and fro. Many of them fled northeastward, along the road to Muffins. But here and there several small groups of halflings coalesced from the throng and determined to try to save their homes. These groups moved in the opposite direction, toward the advancing marauders. The landscape around Elm Grove was dotted with halfling homesteads and scattered patches of woodland. A group of maybe 100 halflings advanced toward a low hill, known locally as the Clovermound, named after the vegetation that was predominant upon its slopes. To their right, another group of 50 or so halflings advanced into a small copse. On their right, another 100 halflings moved into the fields of 2 halfling farms. The halflings were not equipped for war. They bore whatever weapons they had been able to quickly lay their hands on. In most cases, these were hunting bows or slings. A few of them had fashioned crude spears. The halfling army can therefore be reasonably described as fragmented, uncoordinated, and ill-equipped. The Amazon army was of a similar size to that of the halflings. It was also split into separate groups, advancing across a broad front. But this was by Anticlea's design, in order to maximise the amount of booty that could be gathered on the way. The Amazons were better armed than the halflings. However, they were equipped for the pillage of defenceless farmers rather than for war. About half of them were on foot, unarmoured, carrying bows and swords. The remainder were on horseback. Some of these were simply mounted archers, but others of the horsewomen bore shields and swords or spears. A small number of these wore armour. Anticlea herself was on foot, in the centre of the army, surrounded by a group of archers. To her right, 2 groups of Amazon cavalry advanced through halfling fields toward the Clovermound. To her left was a clump of trees, on the far side of which was a second group of foot archers. Beyond them, on the far left flank of the Amazon army, was a third band of horsewomen. The group of halflings in the centre pushed forward to the edge of the copse. The group of halflings to their right split into 2. One of the resulting groups moved toward the centre, beside the copse, while the other stayed out on the right flank. Both groups moved forward, lining the field walls before them, awaiting the Amazon onslaught. The halflings on the left also divided into 2 groups. One of these groups ascended the Clovermound, the better to view the battlefield. The second group halted at the foot of the hill, disorganised and uncertain of what to do next. The Amazons showed no hesitation. Their experience to date was that halflings were contemptible foes who would usually run away and could easily be slaughtered if they did not. Observing halflings before them, they advanced, expecting to swiftly sweep this diminutive opposition aside. But the Amazons were about to be surprised. On this occasion, the halflings put up a fight. As the cavalry on the extreme right of the Amazon army advanced, the halflings atop the Clovermound launched a barrage of missiles at them. Although this attack caused no great casualties, it did cause some anxiety among the horsewomen, who retreated. They joined forces with the other group of Amazon cavalry on that side of the battlefield and considered their next move. Seeing the success of their fellow townsfolk, the halflings who had previously hesitated at the foot of the Clovermound now mounted it to join them. Observing the halfling resistance, Anticlea decided that her right flank needed further reinforcement and headed in that direction with her accompanying band of archers. Meanwhile, on Anticlea's left flank, the balance of the Amazons, being a party of archers accompanied by a group of horsewomen, pushed forward. They were greeted in similar fashion to their sisters on the right flank. A hail of arrows and slingshots swept across them. Many of the Amazon archers on foot were slain. However, this did not deter the horsewomen, who charged forward, seeking to attack the halflings' flank. They were successful in this, closing with the halflings and mercilessly cutting them down. In the centre of the battlefield, the halflings lurking in the copse observed Anticlea and her archers creeping through the fields toward the Clovermound. Seeking to prevent this, the halflings pelted the advancing Amazons with slingshot, causing some casualties. On the Amazon right, the Amazon cavalry had now devised a plan of action to use the cover of field walls and hedges to get as close as possible to the Clovermound while remaining under cover, before charging the halflings atop the hill and putting an end to them. But as the first group of horsewomen advanced into position, the halflings on the Clovermound greeted them with another barrage of missiles, and this time the halflings' accuracy had improved. Amazon casualties were high. The survivors turned and fled, galloping past Anticlea and her advancing archers. Anticlea's archers were themselves shaken by the continuing missile attacks emanating from the copse, and there was a real risk at this point that they might have followed the example of the cavalry and joined them in their flight. But Anticlea rallied her archers and arrayed them along a hedgerow within bowshot of the halflings who were tormenting them. A volley of Amazon arrows flew into the trees, and the number of halfling missiles coming from that direction was abruptly and very significantly reduced. The surviving Amazon archers on Anticlea's left flank continued to push forward through the fields. Their advance was halted when the halflings situated alongside the copse loosed assorted missiles at them, further reducing their numbers. Abandoning any residual intention of assaulting the halflings on the Clovermound, Anticlea ordered the remaining cavalry on her right flank to move across the battlefield and provide additional support to her left flank. However, the Amazon cavalry already stationed on the left flank did not wait for this support to arrive. Having largely finished the job of slaughtering the group of halflings they had previously charged, they regrouped and charged again toward the centre of the battlefield into the halflings situated beside the copse. The resulting melee ebbed to and fro. The halflings initially repulsed the Amazon cavalry charge, buying time for the remaining halflings in the copse to come to the fight. But the Amazons charged again, and now the reinforcements dispatched by Anticlea were beginning to arrive. The remaining halflings fled into the trees, where the cavalry could not follow. Anticlea reviewed the situation. She had annihilated the halfling right and centre. But atop the Clovermound stood serried ranks of doughty halflings who had already proved their martial prowess. She had lost many warriors already that day, and would lose many more in any assault on the hill. Reluctantly she turned away, and, recalling her troops to her, led them from the battlefield. And, from the crest of the Clovermound, the victorious halflings watched her depart. Thus ended the Battle of the Clovermound.